I'd like to call to order the Kingston Planning Board meeting of May 21st, 2024. And first introduce the people sitting at the table. Two members are missing. They will be here very shortly, definitely before 6:45 when the hearings begin. So I'd first like to introduce our town engineer, Dennis Quintel, Board Member Ben Romano, Board Member Peter Coffin. I'm Lynn Merrill. I am the chair. Robin Carter is our land use administrator. Ellie Alessio is our select board representative. Liam Jerome is an alternate member of the board, and our town planner is Glenn Greenwood. Also joining us very shortly will be, excuse me, Rob Trisolo, who is a board member, and Robin Duguay, who is vice chair of the board. I'd like to begin the meeting. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes of the April 16th, 2024?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next is correspondence. The first piece of correspondence is a letter and application for business occupancy at 53 Church Street, Unit 17. It's On Target Kingston LLC. It's a new business at Carriage Town Plaza. The letter says, I respectfully request approval to operate a personal training studio at 53 Church Street, Unit 17 in the Carriage Town Plaza. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. We will have 3 full-time employees and see a maximum of 12 clients at a time in 2 small groups of 6. We will be making no changes to the exterior of the building. I am excited to build a vibrant, healthy, and supportive fitness community in Kingston.
And this is similar to the Key Club that's already there in the same plaza, so I don't see any, unless somebody knows of information that's not on here, like new additions to the septic system, I don't see any reason to require any further review.
No?
I'll make that a motion if nobody has any objections. So I will move that the Alex Lieberman be informed that no further review is required by the planning board for the business occupancy at 53 Church Street, Unit 17, Target Kingston.
And I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Correspondence from Michael and Deborah Edwards, referring to 9 New Boston Road, R19-7. They're changing the use of the garage from storage to a snowmobile and off-road vehicle, off-road recreational vehicle assembly and repair shop. The property is Zone C3, Aquifer Zone B. And they have provided us a plan, their existing site plan. Is either Deborah or Michael here tonight? Might you come forward for a moment, just in case we have a few questions? Thank you.
So green. Okay.
There you go. Thank you. So my question is, are you changing the use of the 2-family home that's there?
No. And there is I'm working with Jim Lavelle to do a formal site plan, new site plan. What I did there is I just had marked up the existing site plan.
So you're basically just changing the use, but we still have to go through the site plan process. Okay. Do we have any objections to changing the use of that site?
No, it's commercial use.
We've got auto repair across the street. Yeah, that's what he said, formal site plan review. So it's just the use, so that he knows the use is okay.
Glenn had some comments, I think, about the...
Glenn, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I really wanted the board to make clear their determination that this use doesn't fall into the same kind of use as an automobile repair place. Because it's actually in Zone A of the aquifer zone, and that's a prohibited use. And so the board should be clear that what they're saying is this is a different enough use that it doesn't create that conflict.
Okay.
Where are you?
Does it only prohibit automotive repair?
Yes.
Correct.
Specifically, so?
Yeah.
Yes.
If I can add a little bit of color, so obviously if you're doing automotive repair, you would have vehicles with gallons and gallons of fuel, lots of quarts of oil, you know, that type of potential damage. What we work on, I mean, has less than a quart of oil in it and would have, you know, a couple gallons of gas at the most. There would be no storage of vehicles on the facility except what's inside being worked on. And there would be I call it a drop and go, because the vehicles aren't registered. So they'd come on the bed of a truck or a trailer, people would drop it off on a scheduled basis. They would come into the garage, they'd get work done, they'd be called to pick them up, and they'd take them away. So there wouldn't be any storage.
It seems a much less intense use than, say, bump and grind.
Exactly.
So are you guys going through a complete site plan
He
review?
will be, yes. He just wants to know if he can change the use, because there's no point in going through a site plan if we don't approve the use.
Does this have to go to the ZBA in order to do?
It would not.
No.
No, it would probably fall under the conditional use, which is something that the planning board
Planning board's
has
responsibility.
the authorities, because it's not specifically listed as one of the 8 permitted uses, but it's not under the prohibited uses, so we have a conditional use permit procedure.
And that happens concurrently with site plan review.
Site plan review, right.
So is this to take a vote, not take a vote, to make it look more
I
like a
think you can
design
just,
review?
it can just be reflected in the minutes.
Okay,
Yeah, I agree.
looks like you're okay.
Okay,
Good luck.
thank you.
Thanks.
See you again.
Looking forward to the site plan review. And the next is the expedited site plan review of Golden Acres Campground. Welcome back.
He's back. And darker.
Huh?
And darker.
I went to Florida. For a week.
So as we did this before, you once again need to give, and then you can tell us where we are at this juncture.
Dave Schleier, Golden Acres, 99 Route 125, Kingston, New Hampshire. And on the plan, you guys asked me to show on the parking lot the location of the food truck and the propane tank relocation. Should just be on that first page.
It is, and you also designated the parking spaces.
Yeah. The wrong map. Yeah, it's up. Yep. The top left corner, the second page. The other page probably didn't need to be printed. Should show the location of the propane tank, bottom right corner of the parking lot, and then the parking spaces.
Yeah, the proposed 4x12 fill station is the propane tank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Irving takes it from here. They do all the permit access for the pipes in the ground and all that stuff, so.
And the location of the food truck is also indicated in that parking area.
Yeah, it's up on the top, the little arrow there. Good, and I see those.
Hi, Robert.
That's all good. And it looks like the inset on the bottom right is for the new sign locations?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this plan had been prepared for the sign stuff, and so we had added things to it that you guys wanted to see.
There you go. That would be nice. The kid would love it.
Any questions from the board?
Seems like a similar use reallocation of items on property.
Is the proposed basketball court within the shoreline protection zone?
I don't think we have a shoreline protection zone in that campground. Our mark is right at the edge of the water. Because the campground, it's in the campground land itself.
Glenn, is that in shoreline protection?
I believe Millbrook is in shoreline.
Millbrook
It is in
is
shoreline
designated
protection.
as part of the shoreline protection, which gives it a 300-foot setback
Right,
to the shoreline protection.
but 50-foot setback for certain things.
150-foot setback
And
for
does the
structures.
basketball court,
I don't think the basketball court qualifies as a structure.
that's what I'm asking.
There's no, it's not, we say that an accessory structure 400 feet or smaller requires a conditional use permit. But that's the only thing that
Okay.
we call out as requiring
This would fall in the,
conditional use permit.
this would fall in the impervious surface area calculations
Correct?
for the, but that would be the only part.
And they
Have no,
You don't have to worry about
They
that.
don't
we have
get
no
anywhere,
concrete or.
they don't get
acres.
anywhere close to that coverage
When we
requirement.
get a basketball court that's 40 acres, we'll let you know.
But there might be a concern with DES if the drainage has any runoff going toward. the
Yeah,
wall.
obviously, we'll continue to talk to them too and see what that, if that works. But
There's also different types of materials for that water.
yeah. It's very small. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like a basketball court. It's 24 by 30, so they're
Oh.
pretty tiny compared to like,
Oh, okay, it's not like a full.
it's just for kids. It's a small little, it's not even a half court, technically.
Yeah, they are close, you're right. I didn't notice that.
We did one at the other campground, also in the same, near the water as well. And nobody had a problem with that. The town was,
Do you have an existing dock there?
nope.
Then you're going to need a state permit for that.
Yep.
And my only other question is, because the entire area that you're designating for 35 tenting spaces is in the flood zone,
Yep. It's primarily used as a tenting area, seasonal business.
do you have an evacuation plan?
We will certainly have one by then. Once we start using it. I don't know of one, but I don't know why there would be one. There's two means of egress onto that parcel of land. You wouldn't have somebody, I mean, we're not even here for that, but we wouldn't have somebody here. It's already used that way, so it's already a tenting area. It's not being proposed, it is a tenting area. As for like, I don't know how it would be impacted if there was a flood. It's seasonal business, it's weekenders.
Yeah, well, it's flooded before, and, you know, I guess the area is if we have a flash flood coming down, dam breaks, whatever, should there be a
We can put a,
evacuation plan in place?
yeah, we can put a plan together. I have to look into that, but somebody said it's flooded, but when I talked to the neighbor, Ray, who owns it all these years, he says it's never flooded. He said it got high water once, and flooding would be like an actual flood occurring and washing over the land. He said that's never happened there. And so I don't know, I keep hearing the flooding thing, but I think it just was high water one year.
Except that we've had a lot of rain this last couple of years, and places have been flooded that have never been flooded before.
Yeah, and this hasn't flooded. So I don't know when this occurred. Maybe Mother's Day flood those years ago?
2006.
Because I've heard it, but no one's been able to tell me what actually happened, and no one said it flushed with water. They just said the water table rose and was over half of it at one point. But it hasn't flooded since I've seen it, and Lisa, who prior owned it, it had never flooded in 7 years. I think that's right.
You probably might want to check with your insurance company, just
Yeah,
to protect yourself, if nothing else.
Yeah, we do have it insured. It is
Yeah.
on our insurance policy
Okay.
as that. It is in the low-lying area, but half of it is and half of it isn't. Half of it is actually outside of that area.
any other questions from the board?
No, and the food truck operator is familiar with all the state requirements for that and getting the
Yep.
health department to sign off for that, and that's.
Working on that simultaneously to
Right. So my question is, I notice on the site plan that's on the lower right-hand corner, there's a building setback line, which is be the setback line off the front property line, which probably would need to meet the setback from 125. And looks like the proposed food truck area and parking are within that setback area?
it's not a building, so it doesn't,
Well,
it's a
I know,
wheeled
but I
vehicle
just
that.
want to
gets-
bring it up for discussion for the board to know that it's in the setback area, that's all. That's an issue with the board.
I mean, that entire row of parking is in that setback area.
That's what's proposed, but not existing.
That is existing parking lot. This is all existing, we're just showing where the food truck will be located on that.
That's what my question is the parking area within that 50 feet, or that setback, or is it in the same area, or is that existing parking?
The setback is for, as far as I know, is for building, and it's not for driveways or parking lots. I mean, there's lots of parking lots right up against the road. I don't know.
And
the
that
question.
parking area has been there
Forever.
for a very long time.
So how far off front property line will the food truck and parking area be?
It's in the parking area, it's in the parking lot, it's in the parking spaces where you would park a wheeled
It's going
vehicle.
to be greater than 50 feet.
It is greater than 50 feet from the center line, which I'm not sure you're
Property,
meant.
building setback.
The parking area that they're using has been used as a parking area for,
And that's fine, if that's where the existing, if that's where the proposed parking's gonna be. But it almost looks like it's closer to the front property line than this. Because it doesn't show a dimension from the front property line on what's proposed.
There's no change to it's in the parking lot. I don't know what line you're referring to. It wasn't asked that question of like, and now keep in mind
I
that,
see the shaded area that says Route 125.
yes.
And then I see how close the parking lot is to that. So is that the same as the 50-foot setback here? Because it shows gravel here on the right-hand site plan. And if that's where the proposed parking area is going to be, and the food truck, then it's in that area, then it's more than 50 feet. My question is it within 50 feet of the front property line, and is that an issue for the board?
But if it's existing, Dennis, it wouldn't be. If it's already there, it's,
Well, I'm just saying that if they're encroaching on the front property line, is that an issue with the board?
okay.
I know what the gravel area says, but it looks smaller than what they're proposing, and it looks bigger there, and if they're making it bigger, they can't go bigger to where the trailers are, they have to go closer to
We're not making
125.
it bigger. This is not the scale. This is
96 feet, sir.
No, that's what it actually is, but the scale is not accurate to the road,
I
right?
get
Like
what
the
you're saying.
positioning is not,
But I see 96 feet here, and I see 50-foot setback, and then the other gravel parking area is probably another 50 feet. So you're going from 50 feet wide on the existing gravel area to 96 feet.
it's the same parking lot. It's not wider.
It shows trailer units 40
it's-
and 42, so you can't encroach on those unless you're gonna move those. Are you gonna move those?
There's plenty of land there.
So you'll be putting the proposed parking lot closer to the street, closer to the front property line. So is that an issue?
If they were moving it, it would be.
Well, it is. They're
I
moving.
mean, I just was on site,
Yeah, it's not
on Monday, and where you have the gravel parking area is where it's always been, with no extension.
No, it's the same parking lot, so I don't know what you're
Well,
seeing.
this parking lot says 96 feet.
The square itself is 96, where it's positioned in the space, I don't know how it's positioned in the space of the
You go 96
original.
feet from those there, you're gonna be closer to the street.
And it's extremely wide from what it needs to be anyways.
And my recollection is there's a wide grassed area, and there are 2 rows of stone
Yeah,
in that wide area between 125 and
yeah.
the parking area.
But did you measure that, Glenn?
I did not measure it.
Right, so it looks like to me, from scaling this plan, it says 1 inch is 50. From the trailer to the front property line is like 110 feet. And so they're going 96 feet, which puts the parking lot right up against the front property line.
But it's not.
You can see the picture, it's not, I don't know. It's,
It's not 96 feet though. This is what you're showing us.
I don't know what he's,
Yeah.
it's not a building, there's no setback, and we're not putting a building up,
And you're not changing the location of the parking area.
no.
Okay. All right.
We're not changing
You
it.
don't mind if the parking lot is right up near the front property line, is what my concern is.
I don't mind that because it's the existing parking area.
It's grandfather.
But what's there is not what's proposed. Proposed is 96 feet.
That is what's there.
You-
That's
but-
what we measured it and showed what was actually there. We're like, this is what it actually measures as, because you wanted to see parking, so we measured it. And then we can put the parking spaces in it to show how big that space is.
I'm only going by what the plan shows.
Okay, so the plans apparently aren't to scale.
This
So,
plan shows that only gravelled area is only like 50 feet,
Okay.
according to this plan here, so.
so is that a concern for the board?
No,
No?
not if it's existing parking lot, no.
Well, I think plans should be accurate. I mean,
That-
obviously, this plan here, with one that has a scale of 1 inch equals 50, shows the parking area way out in front of where the house is, and if you look at the, what was presumably taken from an old set of plans, the parking area, as Dennis says, is only about 50 feet wide, and it's behind, or on par with the existing single-family structure, instead of being mostly out on the roadside of it. So there's no correlation between this and this, and I would say that if you put a scale on a plan, the plan should be to scale, and where there's you've got one sheet here which contradicts itself.
We didn't scale the drawing. We gave you the measurements of the actual parking space that exists, that is
I
there.
understand that you have a scale on the drawing, and you gave us the measurements.
The original site plan is 40 years old,
Okay.
but again, it's a trailer and parking spaces. I mean,
So,
it
I
doesn't
get, it's
matter.
an expedited site plan review.
Correct.
So just one legal question, if it's an expedited site plan review, do the new plans that they brought in have to be to scale
No.
or not? They do not.
The board actually made that determination when they said they could come forward with an
With a site plan
expedited
review.
plan.
Okay, with an expedited site plan review.
Correct.
So with that in mind, anything new?
So I just need, so how far from this plan is the parking lot from the street?
I don't know.
Well, can we put it on the plan so that we all know?
I could add it, but that's not what we're here to do, to
But the
put the
parking lot
measurement on
hasn't
there.
moved, the parking lot's
I
still
understand that,
grandfathered.
but why can't he just delineate where the parking lot is from the street?
I can, after we have the vote, I can agree to, in the
Why
vote,
don't
send
we
you the
make that
paperwork
part
with
of
it
the
on there.
vote?
Because you're not asking, that's not what was asked.
Yep. Okay, let's make that
The
part
the only
of the
other
vote.
question I did have was on the orange information that's overlaid on the old plans about sign setback, I understand. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 sign locations plus an existing sign location, 2 existing sign locations, and a new sign length, all on here. And it's, yeah, I've seen the new sign, it looks great right where, you know, I remember the old sign being, but I'm kind of confused by this as to how many signs you're putting up.
We're not putting any, the property's allowed 2 signs in a certain setback, which the new sign was already approved, so it's already been done and passed for the location that it will be in. But the property itself is allowed 2 signs. So what is prior on an older map where it had other signs, that's not what we're doing. And the old map shows where the old sign was, which we needed to show when we decided to move the sign.
Okay.
So you see the old sign location, then you see the new sign location,
Yeah, I see the Millbrook RV Park sign, and then
which was a metal sign rotting and falling
the
over.
new one with a service like, looks
And-
like granite posts or.
Yeah, and it was
locked
behind a
in.
new telephone pole that,
Hotel, yeah.
so I know that this property has 2 125 entrances, and I know that it's allowed 2 signs on this property. But that's, again, we'd go for another sign permit if we were to put another sign up.
Right, yeah, you need a sign from it. Yeah. Okay.
Do we have the old site plan review? The old site plan?
It is
Was
in
there
the
a site
folder.
plan on record?
Yes.
I presume, because
Yep.
when the whole propane thing came up, we did have a site plan then.
You have an updated site plan, but it was drawn off the original site plan, so
Right,
there was no
over, yeah.
change.
We'd have a distance on that parking lot, right?
The-
Doesn't even show the parking lot.
What was that, Ben?
Doesn't show the parking lot.
Been there for well more than 20 years.
Right.
So it's well within its existing. And if,
That's one of the reasons. why
It
we
will
do
all
the
be-
Updated site plans, you'd like to have an accurate depiction.
yeah, as we discussed, like, this was the expedited, just for a food truck and
Right.
propane location.
Right.
As we move forward, we will be doing a new site plan, which will then take everything into account, have it all measured,
Okay.
have everything checked for you, you know, that is part of our plan. But that's a food truck and moving a propane tank.
Right.
That's what we're here
This
for.
is limited purpose site
Right.
plan, and you do have the word existing gravel lot there, so it does indicate that you're not gonna go and build a new, larger lot closer to the road, so that's fine.
Okay.
How do you know that?
Any other questions from the board?
I know that, but how do you know what the distance is?
Oh, you don't. That's why I said it's nice to have it on here.
I can find out the distance, but it's existing.
Okay. How would you like to proceed?
No, I understand that. Why couldn't you put it over here too?
So this is where we move to grant the conditional approval for the expedited site plan, and the only thing that we would like to have is the exact measurements on that existing parking area. So it's, I move that we approve it.
And pending a permanent site, a new site plan.
Correct, an updated site plan.
But we don't want to make the food truck and propane tank movement pending
Right.
the new site plan. We want to make
Correct.
sure that that's
No, no,
clear, that
no.
they can go ahead and do that before.
Correct.
This is going to be approval here tonight for that.
So we're only approving those 2 things.
So we're approving those 2 things, but not
No,
we will not have a
we don't
condition.
have an updated site plan to approve, so.
I know, but you said pending it, so, we don't want to make sure that that's not a condition of the.
But you can ask him to submit back to us the distance.
Right,
That the that the gravel area
And that would
is
be a
from
condition
the
of
property
approval,
boundary.
would be the distances.
Do you feel comfortable with that?
It's existing, so I have no problems with
Yeah, you go out and
adding
take
the
a-
current measurements to what's
Yeah.
there, better to the plan, and then submitting that later for you guys
Yeah.
as part of it, but.
Yeah, in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I can't vote for it unless I know what the distance is. So you're not gonna
It
get
has
my
nothing
vote
to do
unless
with,
there's a
it,
distance.
I know, but it has nothing to do with the distance. It's an existing parking lot. It's a food truck. I can move the food truck 10 feet in if I need, it. You know, it doesn't seem to matter, but I hear you. It's not what we're here for.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second? Okay, Rob seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Hold on.
What?
So are we asking the applicant to give us the distance for the?
Yes,
Okay.
that's part of the motion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That passes. Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Glenn, I'll get them updated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So the first, excuse me, the first public hearing tonight, can everybody hear back there? Can you hear okay? In and out. In and out. Well, what we're considering is shutting the AC off so you can hear better, and then if it gets too warm, will you let us know and we'll turn it back on? Okay. Because we want to make sure everyone that's here.
Thanks, Phil. Oh my gosh.
We assumed that this portion of the meeting that we just conducted wasn't as important to the people sitting in the back, so we were running the AC as long as we could. So, thank you. Okay, the first public hearing is Samantha Snow. It's property owner Daniel Snow. It's 16 New Boston Road, map 49. The applicant has submitted an application for reconsideration of amending the driveway conditions of the site plan review application conditionally approved on October 17th, 2023 for a home child care facility. And Samantha, you need to introduce yourself and give us your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Samantha Snow. I live at the address 16 New Boston Road in Kingston, New Hampshire, and that's where I'm proposing to open up my home daycare.
And there was an issue with the driveway. So let us hear what the issue is.
Yes, so the original condition that you approved back in October of last year included adding an amendment to the driveway. We all discussed a semicircle. I brought it to Millennium Engineering, who I had hired to do the site plan. They did the site plan. Henry Boyd, who is the land surveyor for that company, and his partner, who is their engineer, told me that the semicircle wasn't possible. Part of it being because Kingston requires a 20-foot distance from the property line, and then having to connect to the existing driveway, it puts people, one, coming in directly to the house and having a hard turn, and then on the exit portion, they're at a weird angle to be able to see, so the sight line to the right was diminished.
Okay. Board questions?
So there's been no change?
So there hasn't been a change. Originally, I came to the board first asking for the extension and then asking for a reconsideration to allow people to be able to back out of our driveway. There's now sort of a split. Phil Coombs and Chief Johnson came by our house today and said that if we could move the 20-foot, have the 20-foot be less and be able to go to the property line, the semicircle should work, but I think that's more of a question for our town engineer. I did draw that up in between that conversation earlier today and this meeting, so I'll go ahead and pass these around for everyone so you can sort of take a look at my best attempt at a drawing here. It comes with an extra blank one in case anybody wants to draw their own option. So we do lots of arts and crafts here, so I figured we'd spread the joy. There you are.
Thank you very much.
Actually, sent me that email that there were 10. So I wrote 3 options. The first is sort of exactly what Bill Coombs and Chief Johnson had suggested, which is for the driveway to come in at the property line and go directly to our existing driveway. I put the little SUV there to show what I think is what the engineers at Millennium Engineering had a problem with, which is that angle of the vehicle. Option B is what I think would be possibly a safer option. It takes the edge of our driveway and adds an extra 16 feet so that people can make that turn a little better and be able to exit perpendicular. And then you can see option C is just a little bit of a tighter turn there and less connected to our driveway currently.
Phil, would you like a copy?
Oh, sure, here you go. And an extra blank one. Thank you.
Maybe you can share with the chief. Okay, any further questions from the board at this time?
If they're closer to the 20-foot boundary, you would have to go to the ZBA, I believe, to get a variance for that?
For the 20-foot requirement, because it's driveway is considered a structure under town ordinance.
Yeah.
So the setback is not something neighbors can grant variances for. Obviously, you know this, yes. It's to protect future owners and everything else, so it would require a variance.
Is it something that requires a variance? Is it part of the ordinances? I know there was
Yes.
talk about a difference of it being part of a regulation rather than an ordinance
The 20-foot requirement for driveways is in the driveway regulation.
in the driveway regulation.
Right, but the setback is, driveways are considered a structure for the ordinance purposes, and structures aren't allowed within 20 feet. I know that's come before us before. You can take a look at it.
Okay. So I'm going to ask for some comments right now from several people, the first being our Director of Public Works, Bill Coombs.
So, through the memorandum of agreement that was signed with the planning board, we do make variations for the 20-foot setback. Typically what we require is a signed letter from the neighbor approving of the use. So,
Okay.
it'd be good to know if that's not the way we should be doing it, because I've done that wrong a few times, then if that's the case. What this allows, and what I had advocated for with Chief Johnson, was this would be entrance-only traffic coming in the new proposed semicircle driveway. And then where they already have the sight distance in the existing driveway, that's where traffic would exit. So it has enough sight distance from either side there. So again, this would be entrance only in this new area. It would be within the 20 feet of the property line, but if the neighbor does approve, then it would allow this use to take place, and it would be better than what is the existing conditions there now.
I spoke to Cindy Evans earlier, who is the abutter on that side, and she said as long as we don't cross the property line, she has no issue with anything that we choose to do. So.
Chief, do we have any issues with fire? Okay.
So do you want a motion?
No? No, we've got public.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
We have letters and we have public comment, and we have all kinds of fun things to do first.
Sounds like a plan. No, I'm not actually.
Ben?
So, I drove by that area today. What if we made this one way? So what if we made this so that you entered in your driveway area and came out the other way?
If we enter in our,
Specifically for B.
yes, so if we enter in our driveway and exit the opposite way,
Yep.
we're shortening the sight distance towards the intersection of New Boston and 125 pretty significantly. I don't have the exact measurement, but in thinking about which direction people should go to enter and exit, it makes more sense for the site distances to go from the 125 side towards the Newton area.
And is that enough of is that wide enough so that like a larger SUV can make that turn if they're coming northbound?
I have a 3-row SUV, and I drove on my grass multiple times today before drawing this up to measure how far it would be and if it works. And I mean, halfway through the bushes that are there now, I made it, but we'll have to remove those bushes. But it's a Toyota Highlander, and I made the turn totally fine, going both past our mailbox into the driveway or even going before the mailbox. So there's plenty of space to make the turn there.
Okay. Any other comment from the board? I'd like to mention that we did receive letters from Jennifer Hill, Megan Kimball, Katrina Fuller, Lauren Weberman, and Katrina Marshall, parents of children at the daycare, sister-in-law, and friend. And we're not going to read those letters. Those letters are part of the record. They'll be part of the record that'll be online. Everybody here on the planning board received them well in advance. And they all said the same thing, that they have no issue backing out of the driveway. Okay. Do we have any public comment? Okay, if you'd like to speak, what you need to do is you need to sit down. You need to give us your name, your address, and that needs to turn green, which it is.
All right, Melanie Domenico, 9 Dugway Road in Newton. I think my comments would be regarding backing out of the driveway, so I think that a lot of us that are here to support Samantha think that our comments are based on your decision tonight. If the semicircle is going to be approved and we're going to move forward with that, then we don't need to make comments about how we feel safe backing out of her driveway and how we feel safe with our children in her care. But if backing out of the driveway is going to continue to be an issue, then we just want it to be known that we feel safe, and as parents, we don't put our children in positions that we don't feel safe in. And I've never once in 5 years that I've known Samantha and she's taking care of my children and we've been friends, have I ever felt unsafe backing out of her driveway. So based on backing out of her driveway, we feel safe.
Thank you very much. Yep. Do we have any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Kirsten Losak. I reside at 17 Bob White in Kingston, New Hampshire. My son is taken care of by Sam, and again, same thing that Melanie was saying is that if we're going to talk about backing out of the driveway, no, hands down, do not have an issue. I completely feel comfortable doing that. We talk about the semicircle to address your SUV question. I have a large SUV. I feel completely comfortable making those turns, those sight lines with that semicircle. I do agree with what was said of the entering on the one side and exiting on the other, because the sight lines are better actually on the driveway side. So just want to say that whether it be the semicircle or the backing out, she's got the best interest of these children in mind, and my son would not be in her hands if I didn't think that. So that's the number one priority, is safety, and I understand that that's also what you guys are thinking of, but she's got it covered and she has the plans and she really wants this, and I think that your support and everybody else's support is what exactly what we all need. So I think that if safety is the number one, she's got it covered, whether it is backing out or it is that semicircle. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any public comment, has anything new to add that's different from what has already been said? Seeing none, we'll close public comment.
I do have a quick question. I believe when you had come before us before, you talked about, we talked about needing a sprinkler system down in the basement because you were increasing the number of students.
No, that was the feedback I got originally from the fire department. but after more thorough consideration and some involvement with the state fire marshal, the fire department concluded that we don't need any sprinkler system, that our space is safe the way it is, and I have a letter from them saying that once the planning board approves the business, that I'll be all set on the fire side of things.
Okay, great. And if you're making a public works director happy with the circular driveway, I have no objections.
Okay. Director Coombs, are we comfortable with this?
Yes, I think this is the best solution, given the lot constrictions and things like that, but I think it's still, this is going to be the safest option while still allowing the business to operate. And again, brought Chief Johnson in on it. He had safety concerns. He had witnessed a pretty bad accident there a few years prior, and this was to his satisfaction as well. So I think this is the best option. I will work with the applicant to make sure that the driveway conforms as much as possible and doesn't interfere with the right-of-way or snow removal. So we should be good to go.
Thank you.
Of the options, A, B, or C, do you have a favorite?
A with some modification. So we're still gonna not exceed the 20-foot width of the driveways at the road. So we'll work on it.
Okay.
Thank you. And I did check that is permissible, that the planning board has the authority to grant that the waiver because of the parking regulations. And it does exempt fences, from structures. It doesn't exempt driveways, but if you look at their structures, it does carports and things that anything's permanent on the ground, so that's constructed in or on the ground. So I think that's where the confusion came from originally. But I agree that driveways definitely can be dealt with only at the planning board level.
Good.
And so that's not an issue.
Yeah, I've got to say, when I read the structure definition in the zoning ordinance, although it does say anything permanently affixed to the ground, it goes on to list only buildings as examples of what is meant. And in the very first paragraph of the definition section, it says throughout the ordinance, structure means building and building means structure. And
right, well, swimming pools included as a structure.
Yes, for some reason they include.
And screen houses.
They include swimming pools.
Yeah.
Screen houses are buildings. I mean, they're temporary usually in nature or easily moved.
Yeah.
But the definition specifically says like temporary carports are structures. But each of the times they give an example, it's a building with the exception of swimming pools, which I think is where the permanently affixed to the ground thing comes in, because they wanted to make the distinction between an above ground pool and an in-ground pool, I guess. But my reading has always been that the driveway regulation is regulated by the planning board, not the zoning board of adjustment.
Right. It's just, it had the same setback, the 20-foot setback requirement, and I think there was an early building inspector who had defined that.
Thank you. Any further comment from the board? Are we ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve some variation of proposed semicircle driveway at 16 New Boston Road, with the condition that we have in writing from the abutting neighbor that she gives permission for the adjustment.
Do we second?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, this is out of order, but can I just ask a procedural?
It's not out of order, because now we ask further discussion.
Can I ask a procedural question? Did we notice butters on this hearing? Yes. Thank you. Beautiful. Because we had continued her actually to June 20th, didn't we?
Yeah, the next meeting.
For the next meeting. So, but we're doing this, but we did notice this hearing. Beautiful. I was going to propose that we may have to convene this on the 18th if we hadn't noticed the butters. But if we've noticed the butters, we don't have to worry about that.
Okay. Everyone ready for the vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ben?
Abstain.
Okay.
And you probably should have mentioned at the beginning, Liam's a voting member because,
Yes.
because
We don't have a full
we don't
board.
have a full board.
Okay,
Good luck.
You may have a question for board while we're still waiting.
sure.
What else needs to be submitted for the driveway permit? Is that something that Bill Coombs has like signature authority for, and
He
that's
does,
fine?
you
Okay.
work with Bill.
Okay.
He's
My
your
other-
he's your new best friend.
He is, he really is. My other question is that the paperwork I need for the state for licensing is an authorization by somebody who's permitted to sign zoning documents. Is this something that I'm going to have to go to the zoning board with now that you've made a decision?
No, that's us.
Okay. And so we're all good for the 13 with the
plan-
semicircle?
Right, and the planning board chair can sign that for you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So I did want to mention one thing. One hearing has been continued to the next meeting, and that would be the discussion on Back Road. So if anyone was here for that, we'll see you again at our very next meeting, which is on June
14 days from today, which is what, 18th?
No, yeah, our next meeting, no, it's the first. No, the 4th. Yeah, June 4th.
Oh, June.
June 4th, yep. Okay.
That was the gentleman.
Anybody need a break? Probably not, it's only been an hour. Okay. Hearing number 2, Cellco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless. This is the 4th hearing for this application. It is continued from April 16th, 2024. Property owners David Kimball, Off Hunt Road, map R1, lot 1. Cellco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless application for the necessary conditional use permit and site plan approval to construct and operate a 140-foot wireless telecommunications facility off Hunt Road. Hi, welcome back. We're getting to be best friends here. So you do again need to introduce yourselves so that we have it on the record and on tape.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Mark Bodwin from the law firm Nixon Peabody.
Is your,
Yes,
okay,
my name is Mark Bodwin.
down. Okay,
Nixon Peabody, Mark Bodwin, here for the 4th time on behalf of Verizon Wireless for site plan review for the proposed wireless facility. Here is a Chip Fredette, site acquisition specialist. Last we were here, we spoke about the relocated site. It seemed as though you were pretty pleased with that. There were some lingering comments on the site plan that needed to be changed, so we submitted a revised site plan since then. We also submitted a shot clock extension letter extending the shot clock through the 26th. I'll let Chip run through the changes to the site plan if that's acceptable with you. Revision to the site plan.
that's fine.
Sure. Hi, folks. Based on the last meeting, Dewberry Engineers revised the plans in concert with Mr. Quintal's, some of Mr. Quintal's comments. So we revised the abutters plan, map R1, lots 6 and 7, were sold to the town of Plastow. Thank you, Ms. Alessio, for noting that. We added the wetlands flag survey and, of course, Audra Klum's stamp to that sheet. Though it was not submitted, I emailed it to Glenn and Robin about 15 minutes ago, the revised removal bond estimate letter. It was done on the 17th. I neglected to give it to Mark to include it with the supplemental application. It's in your inbox now, so long as the email worked for me tonight. So that dollar amount was increased again by adding 25% for inflation, and then of course 4% for future engineering reviews. So that letter is just submitted tonight. that was it for plan changes. Again, of course, Mark mentioned that we discussed with Verizon the idea of extending the shot clock. When I explained the mode of our meetings in the process, it was a no-brainer. They said absolutely. So it was just a matter of time before we signed and approved that. So here we are.
Thank you. Okay, so we have comments from Dennis and from Glenn. Dennis?
Okay, so I reviewed the plans that were revised, I think it's the 29th. Yeah, April 29th. And a letter to the planning board. So many of my previous comments have been addressed and are deleted, the others remain, new comments added. So number 3 was the lot is located at the southwest corner of Kingston and a portion of the lot is in Plasto. It also abuts the town of Hampshire. The plan says they're 53 acres based on a survey. Article 9045G36 provides surveyed property line information. The plan notes that it is not intended to be a boundary survey, and the lot line has dimensions but no bearings. Should a waiver be required, which sheet or sheets will be recorded? The question is. Number 4, there's an existing access driveway onto the lot from 121A in Hampstead. The first 135 feet of the access is paved. The gravel extends an existing cleared area and appears to be used as a stockpile materials. Perhaps the plan should identify the type of materials that are and will be stored on the lot. Number 5 was the access driveway crosses a wetland and has a 15-inch concrete pipe to convey surface runoff from one side to the other. A wetland dredge and fill permit must be noted on the plan and provide verification that the wetland fill was done before state regulations were created. Number 7, a tower setback radius of 98 feet extends over the town into Plasto. The location of the 140-foot monopole tower will have a drop zone over the lot line, and I wonder if an easement is required or written permission is required from the town of Plasto. Article 9045G9 also, why couldn't the tower be located farther from the property line so there wouldn't be an impact to abutting town? So my additional comment was, which would have been number 12, the tower and associated yard area have not moved since the last submitted plans dated for 1/24. I now notice the additional wetlands have been added April 10th, 2024, as noted in Note 5 of Sheet Z2 and Z3. Buffer setback lines from AA have been added. However, it appears there is another wetland, BB line, that has as close as 40 feet to the yard. Wetland scientist Audra Klum states that at the end of the 4th paragraph on page 2 of her report that due to the small size of the wetland, it has limited functions and values and therefore would not have a regulated buffer zone. Her photo shows it as a small pond area seasonally flooded. Does the board accept this and allow this reduced zoning setback requirement? The only thing I would add to that is that their construction for that tower and the yard area is a distance away from that wetland area, and probably if it's done right, probably would not impact that small wetland area. So I would assume that probably is not going to impact the wetland area, but whether it is a wetland or it's not, and does it have to meet the wetland setbacks is really the issue.
Okay.
But that's for you to talk about.
Thank you. Glenn?
My comments were that they had addressed my comments. I left only 2 on there, one being the bond, which has been addressed. I just haven't seen that email. So that isn't an issue for me. I was wondering about Dennis's question regarding his number 7. When I read that, I'm not understanding what you're asking. The property that is involved here remains the same property owner, even though it's split by the municipal boundary. Isn't that correct?
It just so happens that the town line happens to bisect the property.
So so I don't understand the question about an easement. The property owner is the gentleman who's granting them the permission to be on his site.
Okay, well, my issue is, or my concern, not concern, but comment is that it is a different town, and generally properties that come before and applications that come from before the board are within this town and for this town to review and vote on. If there's an impact or potential impact for an abutting town, does an abutting town need to know about that? That there could be another impact in their town, even though it's the same owner?
They were noticed of this hearing as an abutter.
And that's fine with me, if you're comfortable with that, that the fact that they didn't show up to, or didn't submit a comment, then maybe that's significant enough to say that they're not interested and it doesn't matter to them.
I mean...
And if that's the case, it addresses my comment.
They certainly were notified.
All right, there were no department head comments because they were all given at previous meetings for this latest rendition. So, board, I guess we have a few questions to talk about here.
So Dennis, I want to understand, you're telling me that you're just concerned about the 140 feet from the Plastow property line?
98
Plastow
feet.
Line?
Right, the towers.
But he already owns that property, and he's already within 140 feet from his lot line that lives in that is in Plastow.
And that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue is when it was over on the Hampstead line, all right, that's the thing, but I'll use that for simplicity's sake. The fall radius not only was crossing a town line, but it was going onto a residential property. And that no longer is the case. The whole fall zone is within the lot, regardless of where the town line is of David Kimball, so.
Okay.
I was satisfied by that, and I don't think that Plastow had any setback requirements from the town line, so.
Okay, so let's start with also, should a waiver be required because the plan notes that it's not intended to be a boundary survey?
I think that's an excellent comment. We record our site plans, so we need a portion of this site plan to be a surveyed area, because otherwise the registry won't accept the document.
Correct.
And I think you have that. I guess there's a difference between boundary survey and the monumentation survey, no? To do a full boundary survey on a property of this size, 53 acres, is burdensome for us because of the scale of the construction itself. It only impacts a quarter acre, if you will. We have prepared a waiver request, if that's something the board would like to have for the record, and to be able to dot the I and cross the T, so to speak. Mark prepared that, and with that, there's also a letter from Kevin Hatch, our surveyor. If you don't mind, can I grab that? So if I could just read a portion of Kevin's letter here in support of the waiver request. This letter is intended to address Mr. Quintal's comment number 3 on his review letter dated April 12, 2024, for the proposed tower located on land owned by David Kimball. The plans submitted by Dewberry are based upon a survey I prepared for this application. The existing conditions survey shows the property lines, town lines, topography, and wetlands locations. The property lines shown were surveyed by me and are accurately shown on the plan. I am also the land surveyor of record for the Rosewood subdivision in Hampstead, which includes Ellison Ave and Rosewood Circle, and the boundary line between the two properties match. My survey located the town bounds which separated Hampstead, Kingston, and Plastow, and verified they match the survey prepared by Lavelle on file for map R1 lot 2 and for several other lots located in Plastow. The note states that this is not a boundary survey, and the lack of bearings in the plan was intended to prevent this plan from being used to transfer title or write a deed description, since this plan only shows a portion of the property. I believe all relevant survey data has been provided for this application, and a waiver would not be unnecessary. If the board feels one is required, rest assured that all relevant survey data has been provided for the area under consideration. Again, Kevin Hatch.
So our only question is, will that work at the registry? And I guess
Correct.
the only way to find
Yes.
that out is to turn it in.
Yes, we routinely, if required, we routinely request waivers for boundary surveys, again, because we're talking about a very small area of the lot, and of course, we are usually required to record site plans stamped by either PE or a licensed land surveyor. I've never seen any resistance to that effect, so.
The only issue is
In Rockingham?
Rockingham County is really a tough registry to get recorded plans finalized for. So I'm comfortable having the area displayed on the site plan sheet.
Yep.
If it reflected surveying bearings, I hope the registry would accept that, but I'm not sure they will.
If they don't, we'll meet whatever requirements they need, record it, and then of course provide the town with a copy as well.
I mean, the process is difficult.
Sometimes it depends on the day and their mood. I concur with your assessment.
So I mean, I would think that as a recording agent, that if they are given a plan of a detailed area for a site plan, and all of the boundaries on that plan are shown with surveyed information, that they would be happy. But I'm not sure that that's going to be the case.
Well, we're going to find out, aren't we?
I guess we'll make a motion that if it's not accepted by the registry, obviously we don't have to do a survey.
Right.
Okay. So do we need a waiver?
Right.
If the point is that there is the chance they're going to have to do the full survey, then I don't think we do the waiver. I think we hold out and see if we can get something recorded at the registry.
Okay. If they don't record it, then we come back and do a waiver.
So my comment was which sheets would be recorded, because his stamp is on sheet Z3, which doesn't show the detail of where the...
Right, he has to be willing to transfer his survey data to the site plan sheet.
From Z3 to Z2.
Right, and from the registry standpoint, they're going to want that ortho information removed.
Correct.
And you don't have to record all these sheets.
Right.
It
Certainly
just has
not.
to be one that shows the detail of what you're doing. And even a legend or a small area that shows property lines, the connections and whatever, and calculations that, Mr. Hatch knows this, I mean, he deals with it all the time.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. I'd say 2, 3, and 4. Sure. Z2, Z3, Z4, title sheet if they thought it was valuable, just for administrative purposes, but.
they won't record one that's got color on it.
No, they will not.
No, right.
And whatever title block you intend to put on as your title block, make sure that the owner's names show prominently in that title block, or they will not record it.
And tax map information.
They will find.
And you can go there and talk to them, and I would advise you to do that.
Sure.
And you'll learn a lot. Oh, well, we have.
I'm gathering that much, I can tell.
It's very surprising. It's very surprising.
Okay, so the third thing that we need to discuss is the reduced zoning setback for the wetland buffer.
Well, we have a report from a soil scientist who's saying that her take on the values and functions does not require a buffer according to our ordinance.
Correct.
That's Dennis's concern, I believe.
That's what she says.
That is what she says.
You know, the picture shows it as a small ponded area. The evaluation she made was early April, I believe, so it might be before vernal pool characteristics show up. Is it a vernal pool? Don't know. Is it a concern for the board? And I know the Conservation Commission is concerned about the vernal pools. And so, just brought it up as a comment.
Audra would have absolutely noted if there was a chance. I think you applauded her during the last meeting, that if there was any chance that there was vernal pool potential, she would have noted that. I have no doubt. She's done it in the past on our projects. And she simply used the calculation provided by the town in its ordinance to justify what type of wetland we were dealing with and what the value was, and therefore what the ordinance suggests is the setback. So it was guidance from the ordinance suggesting that was a, I don't want to say non-jurisdictional, but at a low value.
I believe it's about 40 feet away. So your proposed work is, in moving material and dirt, is not extreme, because it's not that difficult to move the dirt around there. So being 40 feet away, there's not much chance of impacting the wetlands. So if that helps, you make your decision.
I think that combined with the size of the project, if it was a house or septic system, I'd be concerned. But where it's basically just a generator pad and the
Once it goes in, there's very little going on there.
There's little activity.
Yeah,
so you wouldn't think there'd be an impact.
Once it's established, it's a very low impact to the critters that are out there.
And I would appreciate if it was flagged so that the equipment operators would know where it is, so they could stay away from it.
Yeah,
not have inadvertent.
She flagged it, BB1 through BB8, so it's already flagged and been picked up by Kevin. But in addition, when we prepare a formal set of construction drawings to bring to the code enforcement officer, I'm sure you can bet that there will be wetlands, best management practice, silt fencing, that sort of thing shown between this proposed site and that.
It does show that on the plan.
Yep.
Any further questions or comments from the board?
Did the Conservation Commission see that? Any comments from them, about that
They gave theirs
specific?
early on.
Okay, but did they talk about that specific area?
They talked about the whole project.
But they didn't talk about.
No,
the
they didn't know about this.
They didn't know about that.
Okay. But they had a chance to review it again.
They sure did. Absolutely.
Okay, the one question I had is about the bond letter that is in the mail, so to speak. I don't know if that is something that we could run downstairs and print out and bring up, or the bond letter that they emailed us. I don't know if you got it.
Okay, so while we're looking at that,
And whether it went to Dennis, I mean, it was in agreement with, or, and done with Dennis's suggestions, right? So,
Yeah, it was just Matt recalculated the overall to include 25 and 4% respectively.
yeah. Okay, I can read that. I just don't know, the procedure here is if we want to put a condition that the bond letter is as, you know, it meets the requirements of the town engineer and,
the planner.
Yes, we're all set, right?
so
we're all
that, you know, I think we could just say that, accept the bond letter that's dated such and such. If somebody's read it, so they can say yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll now close this portion of the meeting. We'll open it to public comment. If anyone has any comments from the public that have not been made in a previous meeting, you're welcome to come up to the seat, introduce yourself, and make your comments. Welcome. So you do need to introduce yourself and give your address, please.
Hi, I'm Doug Boulay. I'm at 70 Ellison Avenue in Hampstead.
And I'm Stephanie Boulay, also at 70 Ellison Avenue. And I mean, we've been up here before, so I mean, this is nothing new for us. So I guess we're still abutters. It's still in our backyard. You know, we're in Hampstead, technically. This truly affects Hampstead and Plastow. It doesn't affect Kingston. So it's in our neighborhood, which Hampstead doesn't allow it, so in residential areas. So I feel like, you know, this impacts us more than Kimball, more than Kingston. So I feel just slightly upset that, you know, this tower is going to be in our backyard and in a neighborhood that is all underground. We've said this before, it's nothing new, but I feel like it just needed to say it again for my own peace of mind.
Okay.
I think I'd like to ask, can we get confirmation that this wetland area is not a vernal pool?
We have the report.
Who's the report from? Is that the Conservation Committee?
She's, right, she's an independent wetland scientist.
And I guess I'd just like to ask, I mean, would each one of you be comfortable with the cell phone tower being 700 or so feet from your house?
I mean, I know, but I mean, also, like, we have if anybody took into consideration this generator that's creating all for the wetlands, is that been taken into consideration?
The generator, you said?
The generator, the backup generator that's running a half an hour every week, that will be running, and therefore that is also disrupting the wildlife. And, you know, a lot of evidence said that EMFs affect the wildlife, especially the smaller ones. So that's based on my research, not sure if it's accurate, but these are all of our concerns. Again, we're in Hampstead and this is in our backyard, literally.
It is.
I think we can address, when you bring up EMF, and I understand, and I know Chris Bashaw.
No, I know I brought it up a million times, I totally get it, I'm annoying.
We feel your pain on that regard, because, you know, there's a lot of unknowns about that. However, as a board, our hands are completely tied. You know, you've heard us discuss this before, that we can talk about aesthetics,
Yeah, no.
We can't override the federal government on
Yeah,
the,
no, I know, but it just, that
Western
does
Forces.
impact animal, like, the generator then would definitely impact the,
And we worked hard, I know you were here when we talked about the, moving it significantly
Yeah.
farther away from your backyard. Also, the aiming the exhaust system so that it's going away from Hampstead, because the properties on the other side aren't inhabited. So they are in enclosures, and we did have an issue with the amount of sound produced by one of the companies, and we talked about it, and one of the advantages of moving it this much farther away is it brought it down below Kingston standards for property line noise. And yeah, you'll probably hear it if there's nothing else going on and it's running on a, 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday morning or something. But I think we've gone as far as we could go because it meets, in the current configuration, both the generators that they were talking about supplying met the sound ordinance at the town lines. So,
I meant more of like the emissions from the gas generator, more than the sound.
Diesel.
I don't know.
I mean, it's not a Volkswagen. It's certainly going to produce less emission than a car running the same amount of time, and half an hour once a week is
what it is.
It is what it is. It's
Still not aesthetically pleasing, but
Yeah, we don't want to hear it, that's
that.
why we moved
in
here.
our backyards.
And you saw the pictures of the camouflage tree that was ugly, uglier than the pole. I think we've tried to address all the concerns that we could of the folks along Ellison, and that's why they moved it. And at this point, they're meeting all our requirements. They've gone the extra distance to.
But we've also gone long distance. We spent a lot of time invested in this as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we've done what we can do, and we feel your pain, but unfortunately, we're moving forward.
In that vein, I guess, for the sake of transparency, I just want to put out to the board where I'm sitting with this, which is within the factors considered for granting a conditional use permit. I understand we have the ordinance and the applicant meets the provisions in the ordinance, but within the factors for granting the conditional use permit are all of the concerns that the abutters have raised. I know when Chris was here, we talked about the impact of the landowner who's, potentially using this as a revenue generating opportunity for himself. Thought about that. That's not a consideration in here. So I guess despite the fact that the applicant has met all of the requirements in the ordinance, I think there's still plenty of wiggle room within the conditional use permit to deny.
Well, it certainly is. We're going to have to go through the conditional use permit requirements because that's what we're here for. So I guess we can talk about those as we go.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else have any comment that has not been previously said at a meeting? We will close public comment. Right, next steps, Mark?
You should consider the.
Okay.
Can I just ask, do we need to go through each of these individually as we have for?
Yes.
That's, I think, our procedure.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
What page are we on?
410-9.
Thank you. my book. Well, I have 409, and then I come to 410, and 410 is missing in my book.
I'm sorry?
Oh, page 410 is, 410 is missing in my book.
Do you want my book?
Unless it's, is it part of the small energy, wind energy systems one?
No, it's for telecommunications.
It's telecommunications, so yeah, it's not either. Thank you. Okay. So the issuance of conditional use. In granting the conditional use permit, the planning board may impose conditions to the extent the board concludes such conditions are necessary to minimize any adverse effect of the proposed tower on adjoining properties and preserve the intent of this ordinance. Number 1, procedure on application. The planning board shall act on the application in accordance with the procedural requirements of the site plan review regulations in RSA 676:4. Additional notice requirements that towns may wish to consider include the local regional office of the FAA and owners of private airstrips. 2, decisions. Possible decisions rendered by the planning board include approval, approval with conditions, or denial. All decisions shall be rendered in writing, and a denial shall be in writing and based upon substantial evidence contained in the written record. 3, factors. Height of the proposed tower or other structure, proximity of tower to residential development or zones, nature of uses on adjacent and nearby properties, surrounding topography, surrounding tree coverage and foliage, design of the tower with particular reference to design characteristics that have the effect of reducing or eliminating visual obtrusiveness, proposed ingress and egress to the site, availability of suitable existing towers and other structures as discussed in Article 410.7.c.3, visual impacts on view sheds, ridge lines, and other impacts by means of tower location, tree and foliage clearing, and placement of incidental structures, ability of alternative tower structures and alternative siting locations. Information required. Each applicant requesting a conditional use permit under this ordinance shall submit a scaled plan in accordance with the site plan review regulations and further information including a scaled elevation view, topography, radio frequency coverage, etc., etc. So, do we have the conditional use language?
The factors are the
Right, then you go to the next page.
Okay. Information required. Scaled elevation review, topography, radio frequency coverage, tower height requirements, setbacks, drives, parking, fencing, landscaping, adjacent uses up to 200 feet away, and any other information deemed necessary by the planning board to assess compliance with this ordinance. Furthermore, the applicant shall submit the following prior to any approval by the board. Written proof that the proposed use and facility complies with the FCC regulations on radio frequency exposure guidelines. The applicant shall submit written proof that the evaluation has taken place, as well as the results of such evaluation satisfying the requirements of the National Environmental Policy Act, further referenced in applicable FCC rules. If an environmental assessment or an environmental impact statement is required under the FCC rules and NEPA, submission of the EA or EIS to the board prior to the beginning of the federal 30-day comment period and the town process shall become part of the application requirements. Number 3, each applicant for an antenna or tower shall provide to the planning board an inventory of its existing towers that are within the jurisdiction of the town and those within 2 miles of the border thereof, including specific information about the location, height, design of each tower, as well as economic and technological feasibility for co-location on the inventory towers. The planning board may share such information with other applicants applying for approvals or conditional use permits under this ordinance or other organizations seeking to locate antennas within the jurisdiction of the governing body, the governing authority, provided, however, the planning board is not, by sharing such information, in any way representing or warranting that such sites are available or suitable. If the applicant is proposing to build a new tower, the applicant shall submit written evidence demonstrating that no existing structure can accommodate the applicant proposed antenna. This evidence can consist of substantial evidence that no existing towers or structures are located within the geographic area required to meet the applicant's engineering requirements, provided that a description of the geographic area required is also submitted. B, substantial evidence that existing towers are not of sufficient height to meet the applicant's engineering requirements, and why. C, substantial evidence that the existing towers or structures do not have sufficient structural strength to support the applicant's proposed antenna and related equipment. D, substantial evidence that the applicant's proposed antenna would cause electromagnetic interference with the antenna on the existing towers or structures, or the antenna on the existing towers or structures would cause interference with the applicant's proposed antenna. E, substantial evidence that the fees, costs, or contractual provisions required by the owner in order to share the existing tower or structure are unreasonable. Costs exceeding new tower development are presumed to be unreasonable. F, substantial evidence that the applicant can demonstrate other limiting factors that render existing towers and structures unsuitable. 4, the applicant proposing to build a new tower shall submit an agreement with the town that allows for the maximum allowance of co-location upon the new structure. Such statement shall become a condition to any approval. This statement shall, at a minimum, require the applicant to supply available co-location for reasonable fees and costs to other telecommunications providers. This statement shall also include an agreement that one appropriate co-location spot be set aside for the use of emergency communication. Failure to provide such an agreement is evidence of the applicant's unwillingness to cooperate with the orderly and well-planned development of Kingston and grounds for a denial. 5, the applicant shall submit the engineering information detailing the size and coverage required for the facility. Location. The planning board may have this information reviewed by a consultant for variation of any claims made to the applicant regarding technological limitations and feasibility for alternative locations. Cost for this review should be borne by the applicant in accordance with 676:4, letter G. So, where do we go?
Well, you just listed all of the information that they had to supply.
And they did.
And they did.
I think if we just go back to the factors
You
considered.
should go back to the factors and address them one by one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And get the feeling from the board on each one of those factors.
Okay. Factors considered. 1, height of tower or the structure. Comments from the board?
I think this is something that, judging from their comments and what we've seen before, is they've actually lowered the tower heights considerably. They're not going up as high as they used to.
Right.
You've had more experience with this, Glenn.
And their tower does not meet our tower height limit. They're well below that.
Yeah, it's 400 or something, and then this is 140. So, yeah, it's reasonable.
Okay. Any other comments about the height of the tower?
Topographically, it doesn't stand far and above the surrounding foliage.
It does get above the foliage. However, by leaving the trees in place that would have been cut down in the original location, the sightline from Ellison now means that the trees that are, 370 feet away kind of mask it better than it was when it was over on the property line, and it really stuck up. You don't see a lot of 140-foot trees around, so it will still be visible. The balloon test showed that even in its new location, it's going to be visible. It's slightly higher land than where it was, but that's why we talked about concealing it with, and this something we'll discuss down here. The camouflaging bit was ugly.
So, do we have to vote on these one by one?
You should.
We should.
Yep.
Do we have a motion?
With the height of the tower is reasonable.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay. B, proximity of tower to residential development or zones.
That is the,
We have other towers in Kingston that are far closer.
we do, and that was the issue that caused us to delay this somewhat and getting them to move it. I would say that it's still proximate to a residential development, but significantly less than when it was on the border.
But isn't our ordinance 200 feet from property lines?
No, not for cell towers, no.
So while the proximity is
50 feet.
improved, I don't think, and it's reduced maybe the impact, it certainly hasn't.
There is an impact.
There's absolutely an impact, and not only is it an impact to a residential use, it's an impact to another town. And if we look at where the impact sits, it's with landowners in another development, in another town. Again, the ability to evaluate the impact to the landowner who's going to own the site doesn't sit within these criteria, nor does the impact to Verizon by missing out on this opportunity sit within. So I think the proximity of the tower to that residential neighborhood still exists, and it is really significant.
So I think the opposite. I think the applicant has to have the ability to do something with his property too. It has to be reasonable. I mean, what you're saying is no tower is reasonable.
No, that's not what I'm saying, and I agree with you. However, what I'm saying is nowhere in these provisions does it say the impact to the landowner to generate revenue on his property. So I don't feel reasonably that's a consideration. The consideration is the proximity to a residential development.
Yeah, but there has to be a limit for both parties. There has to be some, we're making it almost 700 feet from other people's properties. I mean, is 700 feet good enough? Or do we want to put something in there saying it has to be 1,000 feet? Or do we want to put something in that has to be reasonable 500 feet? So because we don't do that, I don't think this is unreasonable.
Any further comment or thoughts? Seeing none, are we ready for a motion?
Want to word the motion for us? I mean, I guess that's what I'm looking for.
Proximity of tower to residential development or zones.
I will make a motion that the impact to the abutting residential development and adjacent town has not been significantly mitigated.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it for point of discussion so we could take a vote on it. So that if you vote in favor of that motion, it defeats the proposal.
Correct.
So,
And I'd like clarification if I would become a swing vote in this case, because I haven't been involved with it long enough to be confident in that vote.
well, I haven't been on this board that long either. I've only been a month, so I don't think that has any bearing on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, were you able to see any pictures?
Saw some pictures, but just I haven't been, these conversations prior to last meeting.
I keep thinking of the one that's the street over.
Right, I think.
Fields.
Yeah, there's one at Granite Fields too.
I don't, in looking at tax map data for Hampstead, Plastow, and Kingston in this area, this is the largest parcel by far. And this is where our hole is.
Right.
There's no popular place for that.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the discussion about how narrow it is at this particular point of the parcel size. It would have been great if it was farther in the woods, but I think where we're going that is within the federal regulations, I can't remember what they call it, but the federal rulemaking process for the FAA, or sorry, FCC, that this is considered reasonable, knowing that towns can't prevent cell towers from going in any areas that are required. I hate to keep bringing up the Telecommunications Act, because I know that's a sore point in a lot of municipalities' side, but I think within the structure of the federal rules, that this location is would be considered reasonable as far as proximity to developments, and I agree. Ideally, it'd be nice if you couldn't see any cell towers, but that's just not the way the FCC has gone and the way that we're required to evaluate these things. So I would have to say it is proximate, but it's within the guidelines that we've been provided.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a vote. If you're in favor of the motion, then you are voting to deny the permit based on that. If you are against the motion, then we'll need another motion to vote in favor of the project. So, all those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Do we have a new motion?
And I'll move that while the tower is proximate to residential development, it is within the guidelines provided by the Federal Communications Commission and is considered reasonable.
I second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed? And that passes. The next consideration is nature of uses on adjacent and nearby properties.
This is very similar. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess similar argument that we, within our purview, can take into consideration, void of whatever the FCC and whoever else says, the nature of the uses on adjacent properties, and the nature of the uses are residential. Furthermore, the nature of the uses of the direct abutters prohibit, for reasons, that their town decided, to not allow cell phone towers.
Any further comment? Do you have a motion?
Nature of the use. I would say again that the nature of the use on the Hampstead side is residential. It's not on the other sides, and is not as compatible as we'd like to see, but is still within the guidelines in our town ordinances and provided by the FCC.
Second.
Okay. Got that, Robin?
Mm-hmm. Oh, other Robin.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Surrounding topography.
It's, I think, well suited. The topography is well suited. It gives some elevation to the tower from natural topography that means that the tower can be lower. The actual tower itself can be shorter than would otherwise be the case. So I think it covers a significant area, cell area, without too much tower height.
Okay. Any further discussion on that?
I think they've done a pretty good job trying to meet all the requirements that we have in Kingston, so.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Took a shortcut.
Any
there.
further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? That would be unanimous. Surrounding tree coverage and foliage.
And again, with the exception of Hampstead, there is significant tree coverage in all the other directions. And there is significant tall tree coverage that will stay on the interior part of the property on the Hampstead line. So I think it's as good a tree coverage as we could find for this project.
Okay. Any further discussion? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Design of the tower with particular reference to design characteristics that have the effect of reducing or eliminating visual obtrusiveness. Certainly, I think we gave the adjacent property owners an opportunity to weigh in on the design.
We did, and I think that's the saving grace of this. Otherwise, I would think I was coming in prepared to insist on camouflage until I saw it. I've seen better camouflage. Maybe we could have convinced them to use a different system, but it is what it is, and we did take a vote on that earlier. The other characteristic is that it's a monopole, which is significantly less intrusive than the lattice type of tower design that is much more, has a bigger visual impact. So I would say that the design characteristics of a monopole and the I don't know if it's because it's 5G or if it's just a newer type of antenna. That small rectangular grid antenna is designed to have less visual impact than older cell towers. So I think it meets that requirement.
Any further comment? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that the tower design has the effect of reducing, eliminating visual obtrusiveness.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Proposed ingress and egress to the site. Finally, we get to one that's a little easier.
It should be easy. It's a good existing driveway, period.
Is that a motion?
Yeah. It meets the requirement because there's a good access to the site from a state highway.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Availability of suitable existing towers and other structures as discussed in Article 410.7.c.3.
This goes to the area maps that we were provided as required, but showing that the tower serves to fill a gap in coverage that would not be able to be filled by using existing towers. So I'd say it meets that criterion.
Any further comment? Do we have a motion?
I'll move that the tower fills the gap and there are no other suitable existing towers that could replace this.
Give a second.
Second.
No further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Visual impacts on view sheds, ridge lines, and other impacts by means of tower location, tree and foliage clearing, and placement of incidental structures.
There's no incidental structures. I think that would be, I think if you put it in a downtown area, you might use a church steeple or something, but it's not a significant view shed. It's not like we're looking at a nice mountain that's sticking up over the mountain ridge. I think it complies with that criterion as well as could be possible. the trees on the lot will continue to exist and help mitigate the visual impacts on the project. So I think it meets that criterion. I'll move that it does so.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I guess I would argue that it's probably more so than the other criteria. The visual impact to that residential neighborhood is still significant. So I know many of us saw the sort of picturesque sunsets from people's bay windows and was really sort of, I'm sure, a selling feature of their home, and they're gonna lose that now. So I would argue that the visual impact remains significant, and for that reason, it does not meet the criteria, and
I definitely see your point, and unfortunately, that's one of those things that if you are a billionaire and you can afford to buy and conserve the land surrounding your view sheds, you can. Cell towers seem to be uniquely permissible by the federal government to intrude upon us, more than anything else you'd like to put up, and that would equally impede upon people's views. So where I agree with your point, I just don't think we can override the governance provided to us under the ATC.
Peter, I have a question.
Yeah.
Was there ever discussion or any type of compromise for any compensation or concessions from either the landowner or Verizon for the negative impacts that would be caused on the abutters?
No. The compromise was to move it farther away, leave the trees up that were on that borderline. That,
in your experience, has that been the case? And can you describe any instances where that would have happened?
Sure. So, no, Verizon, at least the projects that I've worked on, we've never compensated an abutter to go away. In our research and our submissions, I think that we've provided to you that cell sites do not have a negative impact on property values. They do not. They're most visible now during this process. Once they're up, they fall into the scenery. I'm looking at the aerial view right now of Google Earth, the village at Granite Fields. It's a 180-foot lattice tower, and you tell me how many houses are being built there, Glenn? You know, and they're not stopping.
It's a substantial development.
Sure.
Which one? Granite Fields?
Granite Fields.
Yeah, well, they just sold a house that was just right backed up to the tower.
Yep.
For $685,000.
Yep. It took some convincing with Mr. Kimball, the landowner, to relocate the site, but he was willing to do so. I said, look, there's a large number of folks on Elson Ave who are very frustrated by this, and I appreciate their point. And while our site plan at the time met the quantitative requirements of the ordinance, it didn't meet this subjective test to which you're referring to, Rob. And so, again, within this gap of coverage that we have, that we experience, trying to fulfill this gap in coverage to, frankly, the residential area where people live, we found a 53-acre lot that's vacant. This doesn't happen very often. That meets all the tests set in Kingston's ordinance. The concession here, I'd like to say, would be the relocation of the site so that it's several hundred feet away, which is much further away than some of the other sites that are in town that maybe we forget about. Again, the style of tower, I'm on a pole. Mr. Coffin's point, most of the towers around here, coincidentally, are some are monopoles, some are lattice towers as well, which are more, in my opinion, more visibly obtrusive. Guide towers as well, that is a consideration. They take up a lot more land space, and it's more visually obtrusive. The monopole is, again, necessary evil, but all of the cabling runs inside it. You see the antenna band on top, galvanized steel and finish, beige antennas. like you've seen them, behind East Coast Lumber. That's a monopole. That's also 180, 190 feet tall. So that's what to expect here. And we saw the balloon float, and this will only be less visible from Ellison, now being several hundred feet away than it was before. So again, the concession was the relocation, to answer your question. Sorry, long way around the mountain.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And the last criteria is availability of alternative tower structures and alternative siting locations.
Does that really pertain to this particular tower because it's fulfilling a need in a blind spot? Where I think that particular factor was based on if they could basically tie into another tower, right?
Yeah, we've already kind of addressed that in the coverage map that they provided. Yeah, and for co-location, but this one it adds on the alternative siting locations. Church steeples, rooftops, but other physically, geographically different locations, and you kind of have a small circle, maybe a mile, maybe a couple few miles that you could locate on another property, but other than just going over on Plastow Town Forest, you wouldn't, you would have the same issues with the butters. So you're moving, exactly, but.
Glenn, was that really the intent of that last factor, was really location? Or was it really just saying, okay, co-location for particular towers? Because I mean, this is a unique, and I think a good spot for something like this with 53 acres, opposed to, hey, I know there's one up at Granite Fields, I know there's one at East Coast Lumber. I mean, this seems to be a better location than those two locations.
I see what you're getting at. The difference between this and G was that the availability of alternative tower structures using something other than, like if they wanted to put a big 200-foot lattice type or guy-wired tower, the alternative might be the monopole, which would be less intrusive. And alternative siting locations would be, I think, one of them is moving it the additional 700 feet away from the residence. That's a siting change to accommodate that. And so I think that we've got the best tower structure that is currently available, and that there are not alternative siting locations that were available to, that would have improved things here.
Motion?
I'll move that it meets the requirements of Section J because it took those factors into consideration, and that's it, period.
Okay, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we now need one motion that says that all the criteria have been voted favorably, and therefore.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that having met the criteria of 410(7)(b)(3), that we should grant the conditional approval for this cell tower as presented in the latest plans.
The conditional use permit.
Sorry, the conditional use permit.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Conditional use permit is
I'm
sorry, I didn't see your name. Sorry. Okay, one opposed. All right. And are we ready for a motion for the entire site plan with contingencies?
That's your next step.
the site plan review process. So, I guess we need some guidance from Mr.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
No, the chairman, if the best way about this is for you to review, you did a review of the site plan review process, and if you can make a recommendation of things that the board still needs to consider, or conditions.
They had met all of my
Not everything.
Right, and then Dennis said.
requirements, save the bonding issue, which came through today. So,
So that would be a contingency,
right,
yeah.
agreement by the town engineer with that bonding request.
And then any site plans meet the requirements for recording at the registry of deeds.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
Do we have a motion?
Dennis had the issue about whether or not there was a dredge and fill permit for the access way. How does the board want to
Oh, the culvert?
act on that?
Yeah.
Then that would be conditional as well.
That could be a condition of approval, either showing that the dredge and fill permit exists or that it was in place before the regulations required one.
I, David Ryan Kimball, the owner of the above referenced property, on oath say that to the best of my knowledge and belief, 1, the initial construction of the existing driveway and culvert used to access the property was completed in the late 1940s or early 1950s, and 2, construction of such driveway and culvert complied with all applicable local and state laws, ordinances, and regulations. Subscribed and sworn this 11th day of April 2024. I can submit that to the extent it's helpful.
So how would that work? Because if there's no, presumably that predates the requirement for the dredge and fill permit.
Well, 1940 predates it considerably.
But I don't know that a affidavit meets the, like, does that get grandfathered in, or would we need,
Well, we would have no records of that because that entryway is actually in
Plastow.
Plastow or
East Hampstead?
Or Hampstead. It's probably Hampstead.
Yeah, right at the.
It's right at the.
Yeah, I think the driveway comes in Plastow side.
it looked like it was on 121A.
In my mind's eye, it comes in Hampstead, but I would leave that to our friend, Mr. Fredette.
So then, to me, it would make more sense to have something from the town of Hampstead confirming that it either predates the requirement or that a affidavit's sufficient to meet the requirements for a dredge and fill permit.
Oh, it is?
It's gonna be further up. Comes out right at that corner of all three. Is that what I'm looking at correctly?
Existing 58 RCP.
Oh, he's talking about the culvert itself. He's talking about the curb cut?
I was talking about the curb cut, but it does make sense that since the culvert is the issue for the wetland crossing.
find a copy of the permit, we certainly would have provided it. That would have been an easy box to check off for you.
Do we have any information from the conservation or DES stating about that culvert? Does it meet its requirements today, or the requirements that we need today? I mean, 15 feet is a pretty big culvert.
It's 15-inch culvert pipe, so it's not very big. It's just the wetland fill that's involved, and it's difficult. If that culvert was placed in there a number of years ago, it's going to be hard to get somebody to justify that it was. Homeowner can make an affidavit, whether you believe him or not, that's certainly up to you. You could require to try to get further information, previous owner. I don't know how long he's owned the property. Maybe a previous owner would know that. But if you believe his affidavit, then that's what you have to go by.
Do you have any difficulty or rejections to basically apply for the permit or DES permit and put a new culvert in there?
Well, I do only the extent that, because we're not impacting it. We're just passing over the existing driveway. We're not proposing to excavate there or touch it. It serves its purpose for our use.
Right.
Once the site's constructed, our technician might go up there once a month doing training something.
Right.
Do you have reason to believe it can support whatever machinery and equipment that you need to get out there?
We do, because the landowner once operated a logging business, and some of the stump piles that are out there. So we got heavy equipment in that is comparable to what we're used to. Yeah, more concerned now.
Yeah, I think where that is a pre-existing condition, that would be something that, it's not on the lease site. I'm not sure how much the town wants to go into getting that.
I just brought it up for discussion because if it was something that was put in recently, then either have a permit number for it if you haven't, and you have an affidavit from the owner that says it was installed there many years ago, then that's probably the best you have to go by. I mean, my only comment was if it's been done recently and there was a permit, that's fine, but you don't have any other evidence that it was prior to state rules and regulations. So it's kind of hard to ask for anything more than that at this point, I guess.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what happens if that fails, Glenn? Then the homeowner's responsible for fixing it?
The property owner would be, yeah.
Okay.
And if they were, if it failed, then they would have to get a permit. Because
Not necessarily. I think they could just replace it in kind without a permit if they're not impacting the wetlands, if it happened to fail.
But can they do it can they replace it without impacting the wetland?
I don't think they can.
If they do impact wetlands, then they need a permit. But if they're just replacing the culvert and they're not impacting wetlands, I wouldn't think they would.
Maybe that's a question we ask.
Well, if they can replace a culvert without impacting wetlands, that's what they're going to do. Because nobody at this juncture is particularly crazy about going to DES for permits.
I think if they had run a logging business with heavy equipment, I don't think we're gonna run into that problem to get one little tower in there.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about, or I'd be concerned about, is if that was in there in the 1930s and the 1940s, it's gonna fail at some point.
Yeah, it may
No
just
matter,
be the concrete
no matter
trucks
when
that
it
do
goes in, it's going to fail sometime.
Yeah. And then that leads all the flooding upstream, so. Run over the road. Then they still need a DES.
If it fails, before it gets fixed, it's going to end up impacting the wetland, unless they go out and fix it in the middle of the night it fails, which never happens.
So my point is can we put some conditions on this for conditional approval?
Yes.
You can.
Yeah.
Oh, the culvert itself?
Why not?
What would your condition be?
No?
Yeah, I think that would be something if it was part of their.
The only thing you have is the affidavit from the owner. Unless you had a previous owner that owned it within the time frame of the regulations, or owned it before the regulations came into play. So you don't have that, but if it's been used on a regular basis, then it's probably fine. I only just brought it up because I thought that if it has been replaced recently or put in recently, and they do have a permit, it would be nice to put it on the plan. So I brought it up for discussion, so we've had a good discussion about it.
Check.
Yeah.
With the two conditions that one, the bond process is successful and recording the registry deed is successful.
Okay, do we want to say what the recourse is if Rockingham County deeds can't record it? They'll have to figure that out on their own, right? Okay. Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That condition is good for 180 days? 180 days, okay?
And, one opposed.
Moving forward, our third hearing of the evening is applicant CJ&J Leasing, property owner Greg and Scott Demetri, 83 Route 125, map R10, lot 9. It's a preliminary site plan review application to construct inclusive of an office building and repair shop and paved parking for product and employees.
I thought you left.
Welcome. Good.
Well, that was a fun evening for you guys.
We have a lot of culverts going on the property, so.
Yes, to repeat, you need to give us your name, who you are, what you're doing, and who you represent.
Don Arnold, I'm an attorney at Warren Reno, Concord, represent the applicant, Demetrius. Greg Demetrius here tonight. Cindy Carrier, the engineer for the project, is here as well, kind of set up. I thought that this case has a little bit, this project has a little bit of history to it. I thought I'd just give a brief overview, because I think you folks saw this about a year ago, and a lot has happened since then. So I'll give a little overview on that and send things over to Cindy to go through the application in detail. So back in June last year, June 23, the applicant before the board did a refrigerated trailer leasing facility on property. This board made a zoning determination that the use fell under section 110.3.8 classification for automobile, trailer, and RV sales leasing. no automotive vehicle sales and leasing and repair so automotive vehicle sales and leasing and repair must be separated by 1,000 feet from the new automotive vehicle sales, leasing, and repair business. Heavy truck sales would not be subject to the 1,000-foot separation requirement from automobile sales facilities. Likewise, an automobile short-term rental company would not be subject to the 1,000-foot separation from automobile sales facilities. So the gist of it is that the use classification describes a few different types of uses: vehicle sales, vehicles, trailers, recreational vehicles, and then sales, leasing, service. And the gist of the amendment to the ordinance is that the 1,000-foot separation requirement only applies to light businesses. So we're back tonight because we believe that under the amended ordinance, our use is not subject to a 1,000-foot separation requirement from cats. We believe that use is permitted by right under the amended zoning ordinance. We submitted a narrative with the application that describes the proposed use and also the past truck sales use. And basically, the proposed use is for a company called CJ&J Leasing. It's a refrigerated trailer leasing business. They do some sales and some service as well. It's basically the most common example of a big tractor trailer, the refrigerated tractor trailer units that you see delivering, groceries to the grocery store and things like that. Past truck sales, as you all probably know, is the more typical truck dealership, selling things from pickup trucks to dump trucks, things like that. So I think they're, according to the zoning classification, they're not like uses. The 1,000-foot separation requirement we believe does not apply. So we're back tonight with two applications. Looks very much like the application did last year. And Cindy will go through it in detail, but there is that threshold issue that we'd like the board to decide before we dive into the whole application and confirm that it is permitted use under the zoning ordinance. And if you have any questions about what the business is, how it operates, Greg is here to try to give you as much detail as you want.
Sometimes we don't know there's a problem or something is not clarified until someone comes before us and.
Sorry. Want me to repeat all of that?
Okay.
Could you please?
So sometimes we don't know that there's a problem or something that's not clear with our zoning ordinances until something comes before us and demonstrates that there's an issue. So thank you for being patient with us to go through the process and have discussions to clarify what is or is not permitted within the 1,000 feet and develop a warrant article for the town to consider and pass. So.
Absolutely. We appreciate the town's efforts in passing that zoning amendment.
I mean, so with that in mind, I guess what they're looking for is an agreement among us that this qualifies as something that is permitted in the C3 zone.
Can I just add, mostly because I'm curious, so assuming we vote that that is the case this evening, does that mean the appeal at Superior Court can be withdrawn and there's no further action needed from the ZBA to revisit their previous decision?
Yeah, that's basically how it would play out. We'd withdraw the appeal from Superior Court. There wouldn't be a use zoning issue anymore. We wouldn't have to go back to the zoning board, and it would just proceed with this board's review on the site plan.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Okay. Do we want to take a vote or just a consensus? Glenn?
Well, the ordinance says that the planning board is allowed to determine if proposed uses constitute uses that require the 1,000-foot separation. So I think you should be very formal about how you answer this question.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that the proposal before us does not fall under the 1,000-foot setback requirement under the new zoning ordinance.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Yeah.
What was the intent of the change that happened in March? When this first came to the planning board, planning board voted that they didn't think that the separation needed to happen. But the planning board also wanted to talk with council. And when we talked with council, we were told, the 1,000-foot separation should be in play, because there's just not clarity in the ordinance. And that was why, because the planning board I don't know if it was unanimous, there might have been one person that was not in agreement, but the planning board felt that the separation didn't need to be put into place. So the change was made to allow the planning board to make a determination if they felt that a use that was being proposed was dissimilar enough from an existing use to not require the 1,000-foot separation, and that it would be done on a case-by-case basis.
So to me, the intent was to just maintain the 1,000 foot, but basically have the ability to decide what use, or what, if there was a potential change in use, we can make that, we can.
Correct. If the use came through that dealt with automotive vehicles, but they were significantly different, then the reasoning of the 1,000, the blatant reason of the 1,000-foot separation when it went in 1998 or whenever it went in, was because we didn't want to see 19 more used car dealerships. Because we had seen 19 of them.
But they also,
but we put a lot of wording into that original one that tied us up in knots.
And that's the wording. The problem was it wasn't just used car dealerships. We were seeing a lot of RV dealers and trailers, camping trailers, campers in type of stuff. So those terms were put in to the ordinance, automotive dealers, trailers,
and leasing and sales,
and RV sales or leasing. And since this was trailer leasing, the exact wording of it encompassed that. And then the testimony was from the board members who were there at the time, said that was in fact the intent. So that's how it went down. So this was very definitely specifically changed to allow, unlike businesses that fell within all those categories, to be within the 1,000 feet.
Yeah, I take, for example, you want to landscape company.
You just couldn't put it right next to Landscapers Depot.
No, actually, that's fine too, because that's
well, that's
the irony.
That's not a trailer.
That's okay.
It's not a trailer, RV, or car. Or truck.
Okay, we'll get back on track. So we have a motion on the table. And it's seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that would be unanimous. Okay, well, we got past that one.
Thank you. Now it's up to Cindy.
Perfect. So, should I move this closer? I'll speak loudly. So what we have is 83, the property is at 83 New Hampshire Route 125, which is on the corner of West Shore Park Road, I'm sorry, and 125. It's an existing residential property. There's a house on the property and one other structure, I believe. And those are intended to be demolished, and then the intent is to build an 18,000 square foot building for use as offices and maintenance and service bays along here and here. The entrance will be off of Route 125. Currently, there's also an existing entrance off of West Shore, which we're intending to close, so there will be only one way in and out of the property. The traffic will come in. These will be pull-through facilities, so you'll be able to go, the tractors will be able to go in and around and through, or this way, whichever they decide is appropriate. The site is somewhat sloped, so the intent is to level it out and have a 5% no more than 5 or 6% grade for the trailer storage. Trailer storage will be all along, I don't know if you can see the difference in color here, this is the gray here. And then we'll have stacked trailer storage here, and here, and here, and then the active units will be here and sort of here where it's single. Stormwater management is proposed to be infiltration units under the parking lot, and there will be a new well on the facility proposed to be here. This is an existing wetland that was delineated by GOAT Environmental, I believe, in 2021, 2022. There is a property survey. I know one of the comments said that we'll need a survey for this. We do the survey. The most recent survey date is March 2023, which shows that there was a vernal pool found on the property. So what we've done is we've pulled back the parking lot and the grading so that it's outside the 100-foot protective zone of the vernal pool. What else? The facility is intended to be built for about up to 24 employees, and currently do you still have 10?
Right now, about 14.
Okay, so you grew, yay. The impervious area on the site is less than 60%. The open space includes the grading around the abutment, and then obviously the area around the wetland and the vernal pool. And we do have a NHDOT permit application in for this project. It went in last week, possibly the week before. So that's been recently submitted to NHDOT. And have I hit everything? I'm open to questions. If I've missed anything that you care about.
Can you refresh our memory, because it's been a while, what the lot coverage is for pavement and building, and what the allowed coverage is in that zone?
Yep. So currently the impervious area for the proposed condition is 58.4%, and the open space is 41.6%. I believe the approved conditions, I don't know if they're on here, is 60/40. Do you recall?
It's 60, you can go up to 60% as long as you show adequate on-site stormwater management.
Right.
And the application came in as a preliminary application.
Correct.
Which is our mandatory preliminary application process.
Correct.
Thank you for doing that. Dennis gave you a long punch list of items because I didn't tell him that this was a preliminary application. He thought this was a formal application.
Okay.
So he hit you with everything that you will be required to do
It's all
with
good.
the formal application.
It will provide us with a beautiful checklist.
It absolutely will. You will have a great litmus
Yes.
test to pass. No, not at all. But from my perspective, the preliminary application procedure provides like 9 things that we should ask you about. And of most concern to me was the orientation of the 2 driveways and why they were being proposed that way and what that means. So I hope that you could give us some input, some insight on that, and you've already done an application to NHDOT, so you guys must feel really comfortable that that's the way that you want to do it. So I'd love to hear what's going on there.
Yeah, so there's 2 driveways existing, one off West Shore and then one off West Shore Park. I'm sorry, I keep calling it the wrong thing. And then one off 125. What we propose to do is close the driveway and curb cut off of the side right here, West Shore Park, so that there's only one way in and out of the property, which is generally about where the existing one is. It's wider, obviously, to handle the trucks that will be going in and out. We did the sight lines going both this way and this way on Route 125, and you can see greater than, I think it was 675 feet was the requirement for the trailers. So we meet the sight lines at this location. And from a grading perspective to get onto the site, this seems to be the best option in order to give us what we need for site.
Perfect.
Is there a tree line that's gonna be maintained on West Shore Park Road? Or is that gonna be clear cut?
So the trees are actually right on the property line, so we'll keep and they're pretty significant trees if you drive up there. So what we can, if it's important, we'll leave them. I guess it makes a lot of sense to do that. What we do need to do is some cut on this side in order to flatten it out. So, and we have a little bit of wiggle room here if we need to, but the intent would be to keep it. I don't know why, but at least, you know, you'll have the right of way, you have the right of way, and then wherever the property line is there a number that you guys would like to see?
I was just curious if they were gonna be cut down or if they're planning to remain.
I think it makes a lot of sense to keep them there, both for visibility, it'll look better on your property, and then it'll help hide so the building will be set down into the site, so you won't necessarily, you'll see the roof. But if the trees are, so I don't know.
I just know as you come around that corner, that tree line on West Shore Park Road pretty covers that parcel pretty well.
It does, and they are pretty significant trees.
Yeah, some of them are huge.
So you're talking about, where's my West Shore Park Road? That's not it. So this is, right, as you're looking at it, properties. See how there's a berm, and then on top of the berm, there's all the trees, right? And that, the idea would be to keep those as much as we can. I don't see why we can't. Yeah.
And you're putting a fence behind them?
No, there's no fence proposed on that side. There was a fence proposed
On the,
by the resident.
right. On the north side.
So why would we get rid of the driveway on the West Shore Park Road? Wouldn't that be useful for fire apparatus, anything like that? Something happens on 125?
It's really close to the corner.
Okay.
To the intersection, and with the tractor trailers, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, I'm just thinking emergency vehicles getting into that area.
Well, coincidentally, there's a fire chief, just a very quiet fire chief in the room right now.
No, we would probably utilize the main entrance.
Yeah, what if it's blocked by tractor trailers and there's a fire or something? How would you?
Are you keeping that entrance, just gating it off?
Yeah, just gating it off. Just say gate it off.
If their intent is to keep a gate there, then one of my requirements is to have any keys that gates that access the property.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it as an emergency type thing.
Well, it doesn't look like it's,
What's that?
Would you prefer that we leave it? I mean, we could leave it on there. The idea is to remove it.
Any other business on 125 that only has one access point, we make entry to, so it's not a second access point that close proximity to the main entrance, probably will make it.
All right.
yeah, I was gonna say, if I look at the profile, if you tried to keep that driveway there, it would go in and down a steep slope onto the new grading, so I think that would be a cost prohibitive to them to try to modify the plans just to keep that driveway. It doesn't make any sense.
We don't need it for operations, so.
So you have like a galaxy's worth of storage, refrigerated storage vehicles. What is the anticipated daily traffic volumes there? Because you're not moving all of those every day.
No.
Most of those sit in place for a while, right?
Majority will sit.
our busy season would be starting August 1st for the holidays, going out to the grocery chains for the turkeys. So they start going out August 1st, and really after New Year's, they all start coming back again. Come end of February, most of the trailers would be parked, and those seasonal trailers, we plan on parking on the northeast side, towards the back, because they're basically gonna be stagnant from January when they start rolling back
to August.
Till August. In the meantime, in those off months, we have the building, the maintenance bays, where we're just gonna do our own preventive maintenance.
So daily traffic going in every day, 200 vehicles a day?
No, in and out. We only have a total of 4 tractors, because we do the deliveries from point A to point B. The majority of our vehicles, we're not bringing any loads in. Our main majority of the business is rental and leasing. So our trailers go out empty, and they'll go out to a customer, meat market, produce market, fish markets, grocery stores, and they'll sit there for storage. That's the primary of our business. We do have some roadable trailers where customers will rent them and lease them, and they're taking them under their own permits and running them up and down the road. But coming in and out, we only have 4 tractors. Like right now in our off season, we're only utilizing 2. And 2 tractors, if they're doing 3 runs a day because of DOT requirements and they can only run so many hours, they're maybe doing at most maybe 3 runs each in and out each day. And the rest will maybe be either customers bringing back a trailer or customers picking up a trailer. We do most of the pickup and deliveries, but there is some that choose to pick up and deliver. And then the rest will be employees coming and going, or maybe husband, wives, taking this.
Because but the question was to try to determine whether the board should consider doing a traffic impact study. And I gotta say, DOT is gonna make you do some sort of traffic impact study, because the entryway you're proposing is bigger and is a more intense use than the residential use that was there. So I think I would probably recommend that we don't have to do an independent traffic impact study.
So, and actually, we hired BHB to do a traffic assessment for us. They did counts at the facility that CJ&J has in Massachusetts, and submitted those counts to the NHDOT for their driveway permit.
We'd love to see that.
Yeah, I can send you.
That would be great. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
How many trailers do you plan on parking? 400?
From now, from January to August is our, end of July is our peak. I mean, obviously, the less the better for us.
I mean, it looks like you got
right now,
you're making money if they're not there, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right now it's been a little difficult. We probably have more than we've had in the last 2 or 3 years, but we're probably 225, 250 in a season right now that's in. And then, like I said, come end of October, it'll probably be a ghost town. I mean, there'll probably be maybe a handful of emergency trails to keep just in case of an emergency.
And I asked this last time, just wanted to confirm, the refrigeration units are not running at all when they're on your property. You deliver them, I mean, obviously turn them on when you hook up a tractor to take them out so they're cold by the time they get to your location, but you don't run refrigeration units on the property, on the trailers.
The only time they would be running would be test running in the garage.
In the garage, yeah, I understand that you're doing maintenance.
Yeah, other than that, even when they leave, they don't run.
Oh, okay.
Because they're empty trailers, so they won't get turned on until they get to the customer.
Okay, so there won't be any, because I know they have separate motors so that they can run when they're, you know, like when you take them to a grocery store and they use them storage, cold storage. There's engines running, the compressor units and stuff that, and there's a facility down in Mass that we had some hiking trails near, and man, that place was loud. They were all backed up to a warehouse type of situation, and listening to those things run was just incredible then. So I just wanted to make sure that, you know, with what you have around you, that you're not running compressors or engines while they're parked. So, other than inside your repair facility.
Correct.
Okay. And the other thing, a completely different subject. I don't know if, Glenn, you ever gave him the information about the right-of-way that went through that Peter Baker had discovered on an early thing, but you do have a right-of-way that goes to a back conservation land that is just below Tree Scout Reservation land, and it's recorded in deeds that we have done a planning office. I think you brought some up, right? Okay, so there's a couple of things. One is that you show it's 20-foot setback, but there's a residential property right next to you, north of you, and that has a 50-foot landscape buffer requirement.
Right here?
Yes.
Yeah, we're providing the 50-foot. This is your 20-foot setback, then we have an additional 30 before we start the parking. And then that's the area that we were gonna have either plantings or stockade fence to help put a barrier.
Okay, so you'll have the 50-foot barrier, and you see, you'd have to ask for a waiver when you get to that point if you wanted to put a fence in instead of having landscaping in it. It probably might depend on.
They brought up landscaping too, so that's perfect.
Yeah. So and on the survey that we have, that shows it's only about 10 or 11 feet wide, but a right-of-way that runs up along that and around the back, and then
Back here.
back property.
This is the scout area here. It's not on this plan, but if I recall, it's back here.
It runs here,
Oh,
here,
it goes all the way
and
around.
goes up here to a property next to adjacent to there. And when the people, is this where those two houses? There's a couple of houses that were put in, so that's residential also.
So this is new residential here.
So that would also be a 50-foot. It's in residential. You have to have that 50-foot there, and this is conservation land or something back up there, so that would be residential. So yeah, you need to take a look at the setback requirements, buffer zone.
I'm sorry?
Let's become a little bit more formal, if we could. So we do have comments from our engineer and our planner. What's your first one?
Perfect. So I have that, the board actually should vote to invoke jurisdiction this evening.
Okay.
Mainly because I think we're gonna continue this, because I think the board should do a site walk, but of course, that's something that's completely up to the board, not up to me. So, be that as it may. Let's go through. The board should discuss and make a determination about the proposed use, which we already did. A lot of information has been provided for this preliminary review, and the board should make it clear that there will need to be a survey for the property, and that's already been addressed. All the requirements found in section 9045 will need to be incorporated in the final application. Cynthia knows that. The board should speak with the applicant about the proposed access driveways, and we've done that. The board should discuss with the applicant the screening, which we've just done. Thank you, Peter. The board should discuss with the applicant the probability of a spill containment plan. being required for the refueling aspect of the proposal. Better graphics of this part of the proposal need to be developed, I think, because we just have that awkward
Yeah, this is
area shown.
Yeah, and so that'll be part of it, and we need to get a NHDES permit for the tanks as well, so the tank design will be part of the whole project. We can submit that with our final set.
You'll probably want to talk with.
Is that for fuel or for?
I'm sorry?
The tanks?
The tanks are for fuel. Diesel, colored and non-colored, that's not the right term, but, right, what's the term? Clear and...
On-road and off-road.
Yeah, so they'll have both, and then some waste oil tanks as well.
Those are mine. And Dennis is.
My comments are too detailed to go through tonight, because I looked at it from, all the drainage that's required and all the other things that are typically required for a full submit. So there's no sense in going through all my comments. Right now, I'm sure she can address all, hopefully.
Okay, all 39.
Sorry.
No, thank you, Dennis, for not wanting to.
We do have some departmental comment sheets. The first is from the Board of Selectmen, and they recommend a third-party review of the wetland values and determination of wetland setback of 35 feet. And they also suggest that we verify possible easement to town property. So let's see whether or not that is necessary or not. And
Was the question, sorry, was the question about the easement, what you were raising a moment ago, Peter?
No, that was a separate easement that dates back to 1926, and it was granted without a location or with dimensions. It says it's right to there was a right of way to pass over the property to get to the meadowlands, they referred to it in there, and then it was in 1963 reference to it, and that's included in the 2819 plans that Robin had down there for the survey, and it shows the easement as having been located on the surveyor.
So can I connect with Robin to get a copy of that survey or identify the two different easements, I guess, that are have been raised?
I'm not sure about the town easement. That was the town land where that refers to.
Peter talked about that before.
Peter?
Last year.
Baker. Well, he talked about the easement that ran along.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this comment from the selectmen was about the town, an easement to the town, and I'm not sure what that refers to.
Is there town land somewhere?
Who brought it up?
Okay, so it may be referring to.
Because I don't know, this is a new discussion to me.
About the town.
The town one.
The town one, yeah. You knew about the other.
I saw the comment letter, but I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, I didn't.
Or you didn't check the map to see where the town property community is.
So I think there's some work we're going to do in-house as well.
Yeah, we have our work.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have a sense of what easements people are concerned about, it would just save us a lot of time doing independent title searches, which we can do otherwise, but it sounds like there's a couple of specific easements that have been identified and are a concern.
Yes.
We're happy to take a look at those.
I will track those down and we will get those to you.
Okay, thanks.
We also have comments from the fire department. They will require that there be enough costs for entry to building and remains on the property. A monitored fire alarm system to meet NFPA code. Building must meet all NFPA codes and standards, fuel storage and dispensing to meet applicable NFPA standards. Install and maintain 30,000 gallon cistern per article 1008 Kingston Fire Protection Regulations.
All right, we can meet all these, and work with the chief in order to do that. We have a proposed cistern on this side, underground cistern, to the, I guess, northwest of the building. Currently, the proposed underground is south of 30,000. So we'll make sure we meet his standards. It's not a problem.
And then we have a letter from Kingston's Heritage Commission. And I'm not going to spend time reading it tonight, and we'll give you a copy. But apparently, the building is on the 1983 Historic Property Survey by tax cards. So they list the age of the home that's sitting there in 1910. And what the Heritage Commission likes to do is, we have a historic property that's going to be demolished, is to take time to go through the property, photograph it, and to take a record of it for posterity. And so what they would like to do is to have the opportunity to go through that. It's something you don't have to do, but it's something they're requesting that they might do so that they can keep a record of what building was there.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Good.
They love the fact that they're hearing about this long before a demolition permit is sent to the building department, because typically they have about a week to put together a time with an owner to get out there, but it seems like maybe there's more time to work with you to get out there now if you're willing to do it.
We got time, yes.
Great. There's also a comment from the Director of Public Works. What is the proposed traffic pattern? Is the 125 entrance the main entryway? I have concerns about using the driveway over Shore Park with trailer traffic so close to the intersection. As a copy of this has been sent to the trustees of the trust fund, as they are managing the authority of the Mill Stream Cemetery.
So the cemetery, I believe, is in a butter, so they would have been notified. I don't know if that's the same as the trustees.
It is managed by the trustees of the trust fund. It's a private cemetery that the town took over the maintenance of. And it's under a trust fund that pays for all the maintenance that's done on that cemetery, as opposed to the town cemeteries.
So we're happy to give them whatever. I guess my question is, because they're in a butter, wouldn't they have received it? Is there a way for me to check? Okay.
And then we did, we're not in public comment time or anything like that, and there's no public hearing. So I don't have to worry about us going to public comment. But we did have a letter to the Kingston Zoning Board of Adjustment from September 12th, 2023, and it's from Pat's Truck Sales. I'm the owner of Pat's Truck Sales, and he said that he believes his business is not all alike.
It's different, right?
It's very different. So rather than, again, take all the time to read it, we'll just synopsize it. That's, I believe, all the comments we received from people. I think one thing that,
Did you want to say anything else?
West Shore Park is a very residential area. I would hope that seeing the commercial activity of all of these vehicles stored back to be screened.
Sure.
Either event by fencing or landscaping or something, so that when people go down that road to their residences, because there are a lot of homes in that area, and it might have a nice transition from the commercial to residential. You might think about that as well.
Okay.
And am I hearing correctly that the board prefers plantings rather than a fence, as an example, a stockade fence?
That's something that would be something that you would put in the application and.
Yeah, I mean, fencing has been used lots of times.
So it doesn't necessarily matter.
Was the concern about the fence limiting the easement, though?
Yeah, it would have to be, it would have to be
There'd be
out on the other side of the easement, so that you couldn't block an easement, but.
But certainly a fence might be better for security as well.
Someone's better be able to see in. Chief Briggs was big on being able to see into a property.
It's very
Might
historic.
deter them for a minute.
On the West Shore Park area, is there a berm there?
Yes. Yeah. It's pretty high, actually, if you're sitting in your car.
It is.
It's above your head.
It does provide some screening.
Yeah.
And the people at 85, are sold their home.
Yes. Yeah, we've heard.
That was the blue house?
Yes, that's the blue house.
Any other comments or thoughts from people?
It seems like people know the site, so maybe they don't want to do a site walk?
Do we want to do a sidewalk?
Well, I drive by there every day, so I, and it's not gonna look like what it looks like now, because.
It is not.
It's nothing like it, because that's all gonna get graded to a level, and so, you know, other than the little brown house there, and that's not gonna be there, so.
It is not.
I don't think you're gonna gain much from that. But
That's-
there are other people that wanna see what.
That's fine. I've taken several site walks out there, so I don't need to go out there. I have.
Should we start with a motion to invoke jurisdiction?
We should, that was my, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to invoke jurisdiction.
Although, if we're not doing a site walk, there really isn't a reason to continue, because you can just go forward with your formal application.
Right, because I thought invoking jurisdiction was something we did when we had the full plans.
With preliminaries and with full plans.
Okay.
We don't invoke jurisdiction on design reviews, because they typically only run one evening. But if a preliminary only runs one evening, there isn't much need to invoke jurisdiction.
Right, yeah, I see.
I'll rescind my motion.
And we are people who don't want a sidewalk.
Lessons on Sunday.
Well, they generally are, it's early Saturday, early Sunday. We're going to check into the easements and then the wetland values, suggestion from the selectmen that perhaps we,
And that would be part of,
Yeah, and that would be
Our
something we
application.
would want to do during the formal application process. I think that's it, unless the applicants have any questions.
I am all set.
I'm good.
So, you plan on withdrawing your appeal?
Yeah, I've got to connect with town council and discuss that, but that was the game plan that we had discussed.
and so, Robin, can you send them the electronic version that you sent? Sent me, and then I sent you back those two book and page numbers, so those two references.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Board business. Do we have anything else to discuss tonight?
We did the minutes.
Yeah, we took care of everything on our list. We're getting finished earlier than we had expected, which is a good thing. Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
I forget how much fun this is.
I am not. I am not.
Good night, guys.
Good night, Liam. He's doing well.
Yeah.
How far in advance do I need to submit revised plans to make it into, what's the next meeting, the 21st?
The